Hey guys, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome back to the channel. We have another monthly reset video. I feel like these have just become my favorite videos now because we get to talk about our goals, we get to share what we're working on and things like that, and I just absolutely love it. So today we've got our munch. So today we've got our March reset video, and first of all, we're gonna go through our February. I can't say the months today. I can't say the months. First of all, we are going to go through our February goals, see how we tracked along that. We're going to do a February reading wrap up. Then we're going to go into setting our March goals. So that's what's headed your way. Make sure you sit back, relax, enjoy, and yeah, let's get into it. All right, guys. So first and foremost, let's have a look at our February goals. Overall, I feel like February for me was an okay month. It was a month of getting back into routine. So January for me was just all over the shop. I did not have a good January at all. We were coming back from, Christmas and New Year's, and we had all the festivities. I was really sick during January. My sleep pattern was all over the place. So for me, January was just all over the shop. But I feel like this month I've really gotten into routine and kind of really started to take back control over my life. So for each month, I have standard goals that are going to be the same. So for instance, every month I want to read at least 4 books. Every month I want to at least go on a sibling date. So in terms of personal finances, I didn't completely hit the targets that I'd set. It was definitely a much better month than January in terms of personal finances, but I didn't hit the exact targets that I wanted to hit. So I didn't reduce my debt by the amount that I wanted to. I didn't save the minimum that I wanted to. And I didn't make the minimum amount from side hustles as much as I wanted to. So across all those 3 categories, it was definitely better than January, but it wasn't on target. But now I feel like that I have my systems and everything in place, I feel like we should be able to hit our standard finance goals for March. So I'm not too upset about that because essentially we went forward, not backwards. So that's a good thing. In terms of YouTube, I was meant to publish 4 videos, but I just didn't. In terms of health and fitness, I feel like this month has been such a good month. I essentially was very consistent with how many times I went to the gym. In terms of my eating habits, they've been really, really good as well. Personally, my goal is to be in the gym 5 times a week. So in that first week of Feb, I did perfect. I did 5 workouts. The second week of Feb was not a good week. I only did 2 workouts. In the third week of Feb, I went to the gym 4 times, which is not quite on target, but it's quite close. And then in the last week of Feb, I hit my 5 workouts. So I'm very, very happy in terms of progress there. And in terms of reading, I did so good. I did so good. This month, I read 10 or a little bit over 10 books. Granted, some of them I read on Audible, but still I am so happy with that. So that was really, really good. And I'll talk about the books that I went through a bit later on in the video. I didn't do a blood donation this month or donate anything to the blood bank. Ideally, I would like to do a donation every other month, and I didn't do one last month and I didn't do one this month. So hopefully next month I'll get to the blood bank and either donate plasma or blood. In terms of sibling dates, this month was a really good month. I went on a little date with my brother, with my sister, with my cousin, with one of my friends. So in terms of relationships and stuff, I think I've done well. Mentally, I feel like this month has been a good month. It wasn't 100% amazing the best, but it was definitely much better than Jan's. And I think that is mainly attributed to getting back into routine and really taking control. So that's it for the standard month-to-month goals that will always be the same. Now let's go deep into February and have a look at some of the other goals that we'd set specifically for Feb and see how we tracked. So essentially Feb, I didn't set too many goals for the month. I only set up 5, but I only essentially achieved 2 of them. So one of my goals was to sign up for private health insurance. I actually did do my research and I've gotten a quote, but I haven't signed up for my private health yet. So I'll be doing that this coming month. I used to be under my parents' cover, but now that I'm adulting, I have to take adult responsibilities and pay for my own private health. So I've been booted off their insurance and now I have to figure out my own private health insurance. Oh my gosh, figuring out which cover you need is so difficult. To be really good with sticking with budget, I feel I wasn't exceptional, but I was definitely much better than I was in January. Work on always replying messages. picking up phone calls and reaching out to friends. Like, I had to physically write this down as a goal because I am so bad. I am absolutely terrible at like replying messages and returning people's calls and stuff. Like, oh, I am embarrassingly bad. So this month I really wanted to prioritize it because I really had to have a deep think about it and say, what am I saying to someone if I'm not picking up their message or if I'm not picking up their calls? Essentially, I'm telling them that they're not important. So I've really had to like take a step back and to try to put a bit more effort into that. And then my last one was to be super productive at work. I feel like Feb, I was better than Jan. Jan was definitely not a productive work month. I was better than Jan, but I don't think I was productive to the level that I wanted to be. And then here, if we just have a look at the weekly January tracker, for the most part, we did quite well. And in terms of sleep, my sleep this month has definitely improved a lot. And I think that's a culmination of, one, I went to the doctors and we worked out a way that we can work on my sleep. And I feel like the things that we discussed and the things that we put in place have been helping out a massive, massive lot. So my sleep has been much, much better. So if you are struggling with sleep, I really encourage you to go see a doctor and see what they can come up with for you. Also, I think being back into routine has really, really helped with helping with my hours of sleep. So if you see, first, I was pretty much averaging between 7 to 8 hours of sleep for the month of Feb, which is great. And yeah, that's that. All right, guys, so let's now go into the reading recap for the month. So I feel like I just wanted to make this a separate section just because I've absolutely been loving reading, and reading is such like a big focus point for me this year. For this year, I'd set the goal that I want to read a book a week, and I'd given myself a bit of a leeway and said, all in all, for the year of 2022, I want to read 50 books. And I am very well and truly on track on that. Each month I should be like tracking to read about 4 books each month. But this month I have completely exceeded that. I didn't even realize how much I read until it was the end of the month and I was counting it up and I was like, whoa, I read 11 books. I have never read 11 books in a month before. It's just like bizarre. So let's just do a bit of a recap. I will speak very, very quickly because I don't want to bore you with all the 11 books that I read. So the first one for the month was Will. This one I gave it 3 stars. I thought it had good stories overall, but then there were some parts that were just getting a bit boring and I just wasn't vibing with as much. So overall 3 star for Will. The second book that I read was a fiction book, and this was The Younger Wife by Sally Hepworth, and this book I actually gave a 2 star. I was very, very disappointed with Sally Hepworth. This is the second of her books that I've been disappointed with. The first book that I read by Sally Hepworth was The Good Sister, of which I absolutely loved that book. I gave that book a 5 star and I thought Sally Hepworth was about to become my favorite author. And then I've picked up a few more of her books and they've just failed to live up to it. So this one was a 2 star. The plot line was just weak. There were just way too many characters to try to focus on, and yeah, I just didn't like it. So 2 stars for this one. Next book that I read was Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and absolutely love Taylor Jenkins Reid. She wrote one of my favorite books of all time, which is The 5 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I absolutely love that book. This book was just like a really nice read. Like, as it says like on the top here, it's just like the perfect beach read, and it was just cool stories. A lot of characters have like a lot of trauma that they're dealing with, and it's just good to see the journey that they go through. It's not like there's a big extravagant ending at the end, so just be prepared for that. I thought the ending was a bit like not extravagant as I would expect, but it was still a good read. And this one I gave a 4 star. All right, then next I got started on the ACOTAR series by Sarah J Maas, and this was my first fantasy read in like ages. The last time I picked up a fantasy book, I was probably like in high school. So it's been a very, very long time, and I absolutely fell in love with this one. This one I gave it a 4 star, and it was just a great story. I've heard really great things about Sarah J Maas, and she did not disappoint. The next book in the series was A Court of Mist and Fury, and this was the second book of the series, and oh my gosh, this was by far the best book of the series. I gave it a 5 star. I just love how the characters developed in this. Like, looking at the characters in book 1 and now book 2 was just like, whoa, they really grew a lot, and the romance in this was absolutely sweet. I'm not going to talk about the characters and spoil them, but I love the main couple in this. They just melt your heart, and the way they fight for each other and everything is just sweet. And then the third book in the series that I read was A Court of Wings and Ruin. This was a chunky one. I gave this one, did I give this one a 3 or 4 star? I gave this one a 3-star. I think I read the whole series a bit too close to each other and too back to back. And as you can see, this is like a chunky book. And I felt like I got bored a bit by the time I got to book 3. The other book that I read was The Things We Keep by Sally Hepworth. And I think this is now my Sally Hepworth last straw. I gave this one a 2-star rating. Again, it didn't do much for me. The plot line was very weak. It was like, I like Sally's writing style. It's like an easy to read writing style. Like you just keep swifting chapter after chapter. But there wasn't like anything that happened. Like for me, it was just like reading a flat line. There was nothing interesting. It was just blah. So that's that. The next book that I read, I don't have it physically here. I listened to it on Audible, and that one was a non-fiction book. So that was Happy Sexy Millionaire by Stephen Bartlett. And oh, I gave this one a 5-star. Absolutely loved this book. I freaking love Stephen Bartlett. I listened to his podcast, Diary of a CEO, and if you don't listen to that podcast, you need to get onto it like now. And I really loved his book. I feel like everyone needs to read this book. It speaks a lot about happiness and being satisfied, and how, you know, you might think $5 million will make you happy, but maybe when you get there, it might not necessarily not make you happy. And why does it necessarily not make you happy? And why is it that when we reach $5 million, we now want to get to $10 million? It speaks about, you know, how society has expectations of things being so binary. You're either this or you're that. You either want this or you want that. And he kind of challenges those assumptions. And I really absolutely love that book. So highly recommend. The next book that I read was a Coho book, and I absolutely love Colleen Hoover. I know she's been hyped up a lot in the book community, but I feel like that is so well and truly deserved. She's such an incredible author. This one is her latest release. She actually released it this year, and it's such a great book. The storyline is lovely. Did I give this 4? Yeah, I gave this a 4-star. I felt like, as lovely as it was, the start of it, like it went like this a little bit. Like, it was a great book, absolutely would recommend it, but there's some of her books that I felt like were better. The start of this book was so emotional and deep and tense, and like, oh my gosh, like it made me cry. But then I don't feel like as we progressed with the book, I felt as deep of emotions as I felt at the start. The next book that I read was Daisy Jones and the Six, and I actually did not finish this one. I gave this a 1-star. It was definitely my least favorite of the books that I read this year, and which was so shocking because it's by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and she's written the book that I spoke about earlier, Malibu Rising, which I love. She's written 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which I absolutely love. So I was expecting this to be good, and it's so hyped up in the book community as well. So I thought it was going to be great. But for me, it just didn't do it. It's written kind of like a documentary. And maybe it's the writing style that I didn't like. I can't explain it, but I just didn't like it. It didn't do it for me. A lot of people do love this book though, so maybe if you pick it up, you'll enjoy it. But for me, it wasn't it. And then the last book that I read, which was non-fiction, was This Is Going to Hurt: Secret Diaries of a Junior Doctor by Adam Kay. So this one I gave it a 3-star. I thought it was a good book, but it's not like one of my favorites. It's essentially about a junior doctor who shares some of the stories about the things that he saw while working for the NHS, so while working in medicine in the UK. So it was really like, some of his stories were like so hilarious. Like, he spoke about things that you'd never think people go to the hospital about. There are a lot of funny stories, but then there were also a lot of heartfelt stories, and he really gave a really true depiction of really how hard doctors work and how the system just puts so much pressure on them and things like that. So I guess it was good to get an inside view. So that's it for the book review part. Let's go and set our goals for the month. So we are essentially done with setting our goals for March, and I am quite happy with the intentions and things that I think I'll be working on. So at the very top, we obviously have the standard goals that we'll always be working towards. With my finance ones, I have just put in a figure there. That's not the exact figure that I'm working on. It's just some of those goals, some of those personal finance ones are a bit personal at this stage. I might share at a later point, but these numbers for the finance ones are just kind of like an arbitrary number. And then we go down to our week by week breakdown, which is very similar to last month. So we have things that we want to make sure that we're tracking every week. And then now the more, I guess, specific for this particular month is the goals for the month. So I've kind of updated the way that I track my goals. So prior I was just kind of listing them all down, but now I've decided to categorize them the same way that I've categorized my goals for the whole year. So I've brought in those 4 categories and now I'm implementing them monthly as well. So personal finance one, there's not too many extravagant goals that I want to be working towards besides, you know, the standard ones that we're going to be working on for each month. But for this month, I want to get rid of my Afterpay account. In the video that I just released, I talked about how I do not like having Afterpay. I essentially signed up for an Afterpay account, maybe like 2018, something like that. Used it for about a year and a half, got rid of it, lived my best life. And then in the last month or 2, I've reactivated it and it's just spiraled out of control and I don't want it in my life. So this month I am going to be closing my Afterpay account and swearing an oath to never open it again. In terms of YouTube wise, I want to be consistently posting a video at least twice a week. So fingers crossed that I do well this month. In terms of health wise, this is a goal that I'm actually really excited for. I really want to get back into running. I never do cardio in the gym. Like I am terrible. I just love weight training and that's what I prefer to do. So my cardiovascular health, it's not the greatest, it's not the best. And I just thought I live in an area where I love the walks that I go on. Granted, it's been raining a lot in Australia over the past few weeks, and it's probably going to continue. So this might be a bit tricky, but I really want to get back into running. So initially I thought I was going to set a goal to go and run at least 3 times a week and to set a target of how many kilometers I want to do per run. But I feel like that's just going to be too overwhelming. Whenever we're introducing new goals in our lives, we want to make sure that we don't go like extreme, because it's very easy to say, I want to get back into running. I'm going to be running 5 days a week. And you know, when you're still motivated and stuff. But then if we set goals that are a bit like too much at the first, too much at start, it makes it hard to maintain those goals and it makes it hard to, you know, actually stick by them. And I'm not going to set a limit for this month on exactly how many kilometers I want to run per month. That's something that I'll do next month. So if I want to continue with running, which I think I want to, then next month we'll set a bit more specific goals and a bit more challenging goals. So given that we're only starting, we're going to start with baby steps and we're not going to set ourselves up for failure. The next thing is I really want to get into the habit of not snoozing my alarm. I feel like this is like a random one, but I think I was just watching a video somewhere on the internet and somebody was talking about like snoozing your alarm. And I was like, wait a minute. I want to like improve that habit of myself. I am a notorious snoozer. Like I will snooze like 10 times. So I really want to work on not snoozing. And again, similar to the running thing, I'm not going to go full in guns blazing because like I said, this is something I've been doing for a very long time. So it'll be absolutely ridiculous for me to think that I'm just going to miraculously get over it. So essentially for the first week of this month, I'm going to be allowing myself to snooze a maximum of 1 time. And after the first time I snooze, I have to get up. And then after this week, I'm going to be sticking to the no snoozing at all. So again, slowly dipping my toe in to build the habit. Next, I want to prioritize donating blood. Like I said, I haven't done it in quite a while now, so I really want to get back into that. So those are my goals. It's nothing groundbreaking, nothing ridiculous, but these are things that are important for me at this stage in my life. These are things that I'm valuing and these are things that I want to be working towards. So yeah, I feel like if I focus my energy on these things for this month, I'm going to have a good month. And then last but not least, I really wanted to show you this tracker that I've recently developed. I got this inspiration essentially from Laminde. I'm probably pronouncing her name wrong, but I'll put it on the screen here. Prior to this month, I essentially used to have a weekly habit tracker at the bottom of my weekly to-do list. At the end of each week, I would copy and paste that into my archive folder and then I would essentially never open it again. I've now created this template, which essentially is a Notion calendar, and it has all the different things that I want to be doing daily. And I've created it and put it in a bird's eye view so that at the end of each month, I can essentially see how I've been tracking with my daily habits. So unlike my goals, which are like things that I'm going to work on a weekly or on a monthly basis, these are daily habits of things that I would like to do every single day. So essentially that's this new habit tracker that I'm going to trial out for this month. Anyways guys, that is it for today's monthly reset video. I hope you really have enjoyed this. I hope that you guys have an amazing month coming your way. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have liked this video, make sure you pop that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And with all that being said and done, dream big, keep well, and hustle hard. I'll catch you again in the next one. Bye.